Hi, good morning, and welcome to the Ice Guys. It's the Saturday edition. It is October 14th, 2017. A huge amount of games on the NHL schedule today. And as always, we have our esteemed panel. I have some questions for Alex B. Smith as to where he actually does these videos. But first, let's get to Andrew McInnes. And Andrew, quite a night in the National Hockey League last night as the Vegas Golden Knights take their first one on the chin, and tonight there's a huge card. What was there anything that that got you last night? And of course, I'm Dana Lane. So, was there anything that you were looking at last night that kind of stuck out to you?
I was just kind of joking around with Alex off air, actually telling him that I had the over in the Ottawa versus Calgary game. Somehow the Senators were able to put up 6 goals on their own. I don't know if I can call that luck or just just a win that I'll take, but they pretty much covered the total by themselves and completely shut out Calgary. I'm liking the way that the Colorado Avalanche are running this year, guys. I really think that they're kind of in a different direction this year. There's a little more positivity in their locker room, and it's really reflecting, not just offensively but defensively. Took care of a kind of older Anaheim Ducks team last night, and let's see if they can improve off that.
Andrew, did you ever think? And there was somewhere down the line in this whole Duchesne issue, whether he was going to go or not go. I mean, to me, I think they thought they dangled him out there, and they dangled him out there hoping to catch a giant great white with his name. But I got the feeling halfway through the summer that if they didn't get that, I thought that there was an understanding between the parties that he was going to stay. I mean, they were basically using their only asset to try to change that organization, and they couldn't get the asset because they were, or assets, because they were just asking for an astronomical amount in return for Duchesne. But look, he went to camp. I think he looks happy. The team is playing extremely well. If they could play the Boston Bruins every day, I think they'd be happy. But there doesn't seem to be any issues in the locker room. And Jared Bednar now has a chance to put in his system. Apparently 8 months last year wasn't enough to put it in, but the Avs are off to a good start.
I'll tell you, Dana, one thing, you guys all know I'm a Habs fan. I'll talk about it every show if I can, sadly. But on a serious note, though, I was really hoping that they would have the Duchesne for Galchenyuk in the summer, or Galchenyuk and a pick, maybe something like that to spice up the lineup. But I think it's good to see. Duchesne comes into camp. He had that very serious little discussion with the media, which kind of cracked me up. How he's like, I'm not going to take any further questions. I'm here to respect my team, respect my teammates. I'll respect the game. And then all of a sudden he's playing now. And you see those comments from Forsberg. I'm not sure if you guys saw, pretty much just saying what he would do if he was the coach is he'd just bench him and trade him away when he can. But I think now you need him more than ever. This team's actually trying to be pretty good right now. They're rolling. They're actually looking like a team that can get some wins.
And I know we got a huge card, but just to follow up on that, it's not like they don't have any talent there. I mean, if you look at down the middle between McKinnon and Duchesne, certainly Andrighetto and Nail Yakupov, who certainly has found the fountain of youth, if you will, even though he's not that old, but certainly hasn't lived up to expectations. They look like a team that's going to be exciting. I mean, last year they looked like they were skating in the mud, and certainly was not reliable to put up any goals, as they were last in the National Hockey League. But I think sometimes, as we saw with the addition of Alexander Kerfoot, I mean, sometimes you add some youth and, it kind of inspires other guys because they're like, okay, now I have some guys to play with. And when I watch them play, I see an inspired effort because, honestly, they could have laid down that second game against the Bruins. Boston went in there, and I know that there's no Bergeron for the Bruins, but they went in there and, basically said, we're going to take 2 from the Bruins, a team that they've had a lot of success against. And, Boston probably was steaming, and Colorado took their best shot. And, here we are. I think that they're very happy where they stand after a few games. Okay, so my other partner in crime today, Alex, I've always had to ask you, and now that I'm running the show, I get to ask you. I mean, you said, I asked you before about you bought a single light to do these videos with. I'm curious, where do these videos emanate from?
This is my home base is my living room, which consists of a television and one very dim light. So I added another kind of brighter yet still pretty dim light to just for these videos. So, but yeah, lighting's not really. I'm not a big fan of having a whole lot of light within my apartment. So I know we needed some of it so you can actually see me on camera, but yeah, might have to add another one just to make it look a little bit cleaner on the shows here. But yeah, this is my apartment right in my old living room on the couch.
Well, I will say this, Alex, I'm right with you because the older I get, the less light I want on me. So I completely understand. What jersey are we wearing today?
Well, it's college football Saturday, so I went on with my Northern Illinois Husky jersey
nice.
For the morning.
Very good. Very good. Okay, let's get to the slate today. Huge slate of games. And I have your best bets, which we'll get to at the end of the show, and we'll go from rotation order from one down to the end. Let's start things off with games 1 and 2. The Florida Panthers at 2-1 take on the Pittsburgh Penguins 2-1. The Penguins $1.79 favorite. Total to the over 5.5 minus $1.25. Game time is at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And guys, the Panthers are certainly off to an impressive start. It was a big win against the St. Louis Blues, a 5-2 victory the other night. Look, perhaps things have calmed down a little bit in Florida. I'm not ready to say that they have, but last year was such was huge turmoil there. We didn't know what position Dale Talon was going to be in, and whether he's going to be the GM or if he was going to be a special assistant, or now he's back to the GM spot making choices. And of course, Gerard Gallant got left off at the curb to fend for himself. He couldn't even call him an Uber, but now he's I think pretty happy here in Vegas after the start that they have made. And there was a lot of turmoil in that organization. Certainly not a team that you could bet on based on that turmoil. And in the win over the St. Louis, you saw that 5 different goal scorers were involved on the score sheet for the Panthers. Look, the Panthers are certainly a team that has talent. I'm not always sure what direction their organization is going in, but when these two teams get together, we know that the Panthers dropped all 3 games to the Penguins last year by a combined score of 12-3. They really weren't in any of these games, and there was such a huge gap in talent that it was noticeable every time they got together. One note for the Pittsburgh Penguins that Ian Cole is on injury reserve. He was hit in the mouth with the puck last week, so he will not play. So I'll send it over to you, Andrew. I mean, when you look at the Panthers and the Penguins, is there anything about this game that interests you?
When I look at the Florida Panthers, it screams over the total for me. And I know that these games this season really has started with a lot of over trends, and it seems kind of cliche with this Panthers team, but I'm just going to keep it simple. I think this team has trouble keeping the puck out of their own end, but when they're on the breakout and they can kind of get numbers, they can also put up some goals, Dana. And I also think that the Pittsburgh Penguins had kind of had a rough start since their 10-1 loss to the Blackhawks, so they're still trying to find themselves this season. They're still trying to establish themselves. There's been the joke about the Stanley Cup hangover. When's that going to stop? And it's a race for a new cup now. And I'm ready for some new people to step up for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But I'm honestly going to put a little more pressure on Sidney Crosby and Malkin and Kessel and those guys, because when it comes down to it, ultimately, you need it starts with all your all-stars. And, so if I were to make a play on this game, it's the line's a little bit too big right now, and I'm not really going to mess with the puck line. But if I was to bet on this game, I would probably take over the total, or even over in the first period.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that one, and it's very difficult. I mean, at first look at this Penguins team, when you have lines like Gensel and Crosby and Rust on your first line, and then on your second line is Malkin and Hagelin and Kessel, that always screams an over for me, and I think that's why it's shaded minus $1.25 to the over. So that would be the side I would actually lean on, but not an official play. Alex, I know that you had an opinion on this next game, game number 3 and 4. The Washington Capitals come in at 3-1-1. They're at the Philadelphia Flyers 2-2-0. Game time starts at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And, the Flyers get to finally play a home game after playing 4 games on the road. And, they come home and what's staring them in their face is Alexander Ovechkin. And I've said this all summer. I said, all I've heard about the Washington Capitals, Alex, was Ovechkin was old. He was in decline, and that may still prove true. The Washington Capitals would barely make the playoffs. I heard somebody say that they wouldn't make the playoffs, and I honestly, there's still an immense amount of talent on this team. I think with a goaltender like Braden Holtby, which is where your success starts, I think it's very premature to say that these guys won't be an impactful team in the East. Will they win another President's Trophy? Yeah, maybe not. But I think when the playoffs rolls around, that there certainly will still be a team that you would not want to face, and especially maybe a team that you wouldn't want to face with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder if they don't win that President's Trophy. I've thought in the past, Alex, that they've wrapped that up a little bit too early, especially 2 years ago, and then they had to crank it up for the playoffs, and they were good enough to get by the Flyers, but they weren't good enough to win a second-round game. And I thought for Philadelphia that they played much better than their record indicates. I thought that they controlled the puck well in most of their 4 games already. I think they have a lot more speed than they showed last year, which is, something that you absolutely need in this league. And that game against Nashville was within their reach as well. So their record is probably not a reflection of how well they played. Alex, I know that you had have a thought on this game. Which side are you leaning on?
Well, and there's only one lineup right now. You got, Philadelphia actually coming in from what I look like as possibly $1.35, $1.40 favorite, which makes a little bit of sense leading. And Washington played last night. I had the under last night in the Washington New Jersey game, 1-0 halfway through the second, and all of a sudden we saw an explosion each way. Like I said, Ovechkin got a power play goal and off they went. And it's interesting. Nicholas Backstrom was initially listed as a scratch last night, ended up playing, looked good in the warmups, felt good. Played outstanding, had a goal and 3 assists. So, like I said, they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. They know that, everybody thinks their time is running out. They want to prove otherwise. And he said, when you got a goaltender like Braden Holtby, even tonight they're going to have Philip Grubauer in that. He's one of the better backups in the league, in my opinion. I think he holds up at times and comes in these good spots. So you got Philadelphia coming off. They started on the West Coast. Came back, like I said, had that big shootout, 6-5, back and forth game against Nashville. Now they come home. Obviously, going to be the energy of the home crowd, and this is, a division game. The fans will be up for it, and hopefully that energy translates over to the team. I think the over might be the play here tonight. I thought, like I said, there would be a bit of a downturn with the offense in Washington last night against a New Jersey team that plays a little bit more defensively, but I think we're going to see some energy both ways. And like I said, I think Washington, their offense, Backstrom still feels good and plays tonight. And Ovechkin keeps his hot streak going now at 9 goals. I think we're going to see some goals here both ways. So I like the over in this.
You know what, Alex, and this is a prime don't really watch this sport. I mean, they're putting up a line that I see now is Philly minus $1.40. I expect the line to be out and everywhere around that area. And, these guys don't understand how good that Grubauer is. And, to put them as a $1.40 or Philadelphia as a $1.40 favorite is just telling me you're not watching the sport. I'm not sure if they should be that big of an underdog to anybody in this league. So even with Grubauer, but this is a guy that, here in Vegas that they talked about would be a nice fit. But, obviously that didn't happen. But Grubauer is more than capable, and his numbers have been spectacular. But historically, Alex, the Capitals have not played well in Philly. In fact, in their last 45 meetings, which goes back a little ways, Washington is only 14-30-1 in Philadelphia. So and that's kind of eye-opening considering how much success Washington has had in the last couple of years. So Alex is on the over, you said, tonight?
Yeah. I'll be looking at the over. Like I said, the only line that's up, I think it's 5.5, slightly shaded to the over around $1.20.
Yeah, well, let me look real quick and see if there's any any update on that? Yeah, it's looks like at Bet Online right now it's over 5.5 minus $1.18, so it's right around that number. Okay, moving on to our next game, the St. Louis Blues 4-1 on the season take on the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-1, and probably is the marquee game, at least record wise tonight. The Tampa Bay Lightning is minus $1.49, right up against the edge of where I like to play games, but we'll talk about this later more in depth in our best bets. The over shaded minus $1.08, over $5.5. And look, for me, Florida had too many options at the offensive end the other night. McCoshen and Bukestad and McCann and Trocheck and Ekblad. I mean, there was a ton of offensive options that maybe they didn't have last season. I mean, they are playing inspired, and we talked about the Panthers. Or I'm sorry, we talked about the yeah. Let me rephrase that, because I have my Panther notes and my Blues notes. This is why Ian needs to be here. Okay, so Tampa. We'll move on with this. Tampa's obviously been lighting up the scoreboard. They have 22 goals so far this season. This is a team that you certainly would look to play on the over, which is what I'm going to look to do. We'll see if that line moves a little bit. And against the Penguins, a team that does give up a lot of shots and did last year. The Penguins, they did put up 5 goals in the win against the Pens. So I'm not sure I want to play them on a rebound game off of something like that. The over is 11-5 in their last 16 games. Does any of you have an opinion or a thought on this game?
Well, just looking at St. Louis so far, I mean, this is a team I thought would be trending down for sure this year, but right now they've been red hot. Starting off, they had the 4 wins before losing to Florida, and they've done well against Tampa. They've won 8 of the last 10 meetings. So, it's interesting. I always look at teams with this 2-game, that Florida, trip. Some teams struggle going from Florida to Tampa Bay. Some teams do well, and it seems like St. Louis is one of those teams that they don't really mind being in the Sunshine State. So, looking at plus price about $1.15, I can see where the Blues might be a team to look for. I put a lean toward the Blues a little bit.
Moving on to our next game, the New Jersey Devils 3-1, probably the surprise of the young season, if not for Vegas, who dropped their first game last night. I mean, I heard many people last night saying who had Vegas and New Jersey on their undefeated pool. I don't think many people had their hands up, but they'll travel to New York to take on the Rangers at Madison Square Garden. The Rangers off to a kind of a tough start. The Devils will attempt to bounce back from their first loss of the season, and of course, the Rangers will try to avoid their third loss in a row. This is kind of a huge game for New Jersey, because I'm thinking, yes, we've had success, but the Rangers are probably one of those teams where you want to measure yourself up against. I do think New Jersey is going to fall back to the pack as the season goes on, but so far, let's ride that momentum to start the year. They scored a total of 16 games over their first 3 games, or 16 goals over their first 3 games, and they only managed 2 in Friday's game against Washington. So I think, sometimes I want to watch, yes, it's fine if, you're beating teams that you should beat or teams that you're expected to compete against, but when you step up and caliber of opponent, how well do you play at that point? And I think that this is a kind of a barometer for that as well. The Devils certainly, I mean, there's no doubt about it, have been, you would say that they've been offensive juggernauts. They've had tallied 6 times in each of the last 2 victories, and they allowed 5 goals as well. So you might want to kind of look at the over in this. I will pass on this as far as a play, but historically for New Jersey, despite the fact that they are playing much better, historically they have not played well against the Rangers. So this is kind of a pass for me. Do either of you have a thought on this game?
I'll just say that I really think that this is kind of a statement game for New Jersey. I'll kind of just follow up what you were saying, Dana, where, when you're playing, when you're playing teams, that you should beat, or teams that you're expected to put numbers up against, at least it kind of makes sense. But you're playing a team in the Rangers that have 2 solid goalies in Lundqvist and Pavlik. This is a Rangers team that's pretty fast. They're gritty, and they like to push the pace as well. So I think this is actually going to be one of those just entertaining games to watch. You know, it's not going to be one of those Ottawa Senators playoff games where you sit back and it's a 1-1 game for most of the game. I think this could be really entertaining. I think both teams could put up some goals, but I'm going to lean for the home dogs, or for the home guys, the Rangers. I just don't think that the Devils can ride this momentum they had. They're coming off a loss, and I think that the Rangers will just keep it up. So it's a lean for the Rangers on me. And other than that, just a pass. But like I said, it's a statement game for the Devils because, you know, this is a game you need to win. You need to go up against these teams that have good reputations and actually prove to them that you're a part of this league now, and you're not sitting at that bottom looking up.
Yeah, and I saw a goalie who should start tonight. I mean, Kincaid, it looks like it was listed for New Jersey, Pavlik for New Jersey, or for the Rangers. So this is going to be a game of the backups tonight, allegedly. We'll see when morning skate. We'll see who's first off, and then we'll get a confirmation on that. Okay, let's move on to a game that both of you want to talk about extensively. I'll just throw in a note and you guys can talk about it. Toronto Maple Leafs coming in at 3-1. And, you know, to me, if I had to put together some early power ratings, the Toronto Maple Leafs would be on the top of the list for me. They are $1.07 favor in some spots, 5.5 to the under, minus $1.21 at the Montreal Canadiens, who are 1-3. Andrew, sorry to say, my old Bruin roots are nice and warm right now thinking about it. They'd be warmer if the Bruins were actually playing well. But, you know, we all know about the gifted players that the Leafs have. We know that they have Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and William Nylander, and they have 22 goals in their first 4 games. And, you know, when we flip over to the Montreal Canadiens, you know, they've only had 4 non-shootout goals so far. So on the outside, this looks like a complete mismatch, but I know both of you have opinions on this game. First for you, Andrew.
Yeah, guys, this is this is the best night to have the Habs playing the Leafs. You know, here in Canada, we call it Hockey Night in Canada. This is the matchup, the first time they've played on a Saturday night together, and it's a matchup that I like. You know, looking at the standings wise, like Dana said, I mean, you wouldn't think this would be anywhere close. Look at these two teams. The Habs are averaging 1 goal a game. Meanwhile, the Leafs are averaging 5. I think you'd be stupid not to take the over in this game. I'll be quite honest about that. I mean, the Leafs, I said it, I tweeted out last week, I'm saying I'm just going to ride the over in the Leafs games till the day I die, it seems right now, because the amount of goals that they're putting up. And, you know, like, it seems like the Montreal Canadiens are having trouble putting up goals, but what better place than in front of 21,000 screaming fans at home, you know, and it's against one of their huge rivals. I would honestly look to bet the over in the first period, guys. That's a strong play for me. And, you know, Dana, you've kind of gotten me into the first period bets a little bit. You know, I was trying to keep them to a minimal, but when I see an opportunity, it's not a bad play at all. I think that you'll see the Habs offense come alive a little bit. You know, I'm not guaranteeing many goals out of them, but it's just about the depth that I think the Canadiens kind of low-key have. You know, Paul Byron, Philippe Deneau, those guys are the guys that really need to step up instead of just being Pacioretty, Galchenyuk, and them. You know, Galchenyuk got sent down to the 4th line. If he doesn't start doing anything somewhere, he's going to be just scratched. I mean, we got to start seeing something out of these guys. Carey Price his back's probably hurting from carrying these guys for the past 5 years, and I'm waiting to see some offense out of these guys. But still, guys, as much as we've seen a lack of offense from the Canadiens, over the total is the play for me.
And Alex, we know that Carey Price isn't off to his usual start. His goals against average is well over 3 right now, save percentage under 90%. But Montreal does historically have Toronto's number. I mean, does Carey Price's start worry you tonight, and which side are you on?
No, it doesn't worry me. Like I said, yeah, he's had to carry this team for so long, carry the workload and make some huge saves night after night. And you start to worry. He's one of the goalies that I've had circle him, Henrik Lundqvist, a couple of even Tuukka Rask, another goalie that I worry about at times. Like, wow, how many big saves can they come through with night after night? You know, and these guys aren't getting any younger. So those are things that I tend to worry about a little bit. But the thing here is, yeah, the last 14 meetings, Montreal has won all of them. And you look at, you know, Toronto, they know they're getting better, but little things like this is, if a team's going to be on the rise, they have to get over the hump and win these kind of games. You have to beat your rivals, and you have to end these streaks. Look at the Anaheim-Calgary matchup over in the week. Calgary had lost 27 straight meetings in Anaheim. They finally get over the hump there. So, and sadly, I was on Anaheim in that game. So, I'm not going to run into another train here. I'm going to look at Toronto here. I think Toronto finds a way to get over the hump. I agree with the first period over, too. I think we're going to see a lot of goals go both ways early in this game. But I think this is the time for Toronto. If they want to step up and be, a true part of the top class in the Eastern Conference, they got to win a big game like this on the road against their rival.
Yeah, and for me, it's a no play for me because Montreal has beaten Toronto 20 out of the last 26 times, and of course 14 straight. So you would think, though, if Montreal was going to be up for any opponent, it would be Toronto, and I think we're going to see our best, and maybe this is their best, and maybe this is a game where you sit down with a notebook and say, okay, well, this is the time where you would expect Montreal to be at their best, and this is who doesn't show up. I always kind of say that these games are kind of show-me games because the guys that don't step up in these situations, I can't expect them to step up in any situation or any at least big-time situation. So I will kind of look at this with a pen and paper in hand, but Montreal would be the side I would lean to just out of thinking that, hey, look, history is certainly on your side, and if you can't get up for Toronto, I really don't have much interest betting on you most of the season. Go to the next game. Carolina 1-0-1 at the Winnipeg Jets 2-2. We talked about this a little bit, Andrew. Winnipeg is minus $1.29. Total is 6, shaded to the over, minus $1.20. And hey, look, you asked me earlier about what I thought about the Carolina Hurricanes, and I think, well, nice start. They do hit the road for the first time this season, so let's see what we have with them as far as that's concerned. And, the start of any season is kind of like Christmas a little bit. You open up every box and you say, oh, but geez, this is how you play at home. This is what you're going to look like at home. And you come over here and you open up this box. This is what you're going to play at, what you're going to be like on the road. So I think this is kind of one of those games for me where I still don't expect. I don't want to assume. I just want to see how you respond. And Winnipeg is not an easy place to go in and play. The Carolina Hurricanes, although 1-0-1, both of those games did go into overtime. They easily could be 0-2 on the season, and they started out obviously with that 5-4 shootout win against the Minnesota Wild, and then the overtime loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets. So on one side of this, I can definitely see where the Carolina Hurricanes have been improved, but on the other side of this, if you look at Winnipeg, I feel, and maybe this has been a feeling that's been there for a year and a half, I kind of start to see where the pieces are starting to fit together. Scheifele and Ehlers have played well. Patrick Lineage now on the scoreboard, so maybe that's going to give them an offensive boost. And let's see how that momentum affects Winnipeg against a team that they probably think they should handle. The Carolina Hurricanes are 28-12-3 in their last 43 games in Winnipeg. I know that goes on forever, but certainly that does bode well for the Hurricanes. Even when they've had bad teams, it looks like that they've been able to win on a fairly consistent basis against the Jets. Andrew or Alex, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I guess I'll just start us off here. Yeah, no, I really do like Winnipeg. I mentioned to you before the show, I think Carolina's been a little bit hyped. They've been a little bit kind of overrated since the start of the season here. And I know that that Winnipeg's laying a tiny bit of juice here, but I like the way that they're playing. A little quote from Nikolai Ehlers, when he got his hat trick that night, guys, he literally said to the media, look, I'm set up. I get tap-ins. My teammates are so good that we have such good chemistry that, we don't really have to work too hard. We all know where each other are going to be, and we're able to work together so well. And I think that, early in the season, that chemistry is so important. People don't understand that even if you've been with someone for several years in the same line, when you're clicking on all cylinders and it's only, second, third, fourth game of the season for you, that's great. And I think being at home is just that extra bonus for them. Like you mentioned, Carolina traveling on the road for the first time this season. Coming into this Winnipeg arena, I say, minus 135. I understand that, but I'm all over Winnipeg, guys.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, Alex, because we haven't had an official word on the starting goaltender, but is Scott Darling is another guy that was rumored to come to Vegas early on. Is he a guy that you can rely on to carry the load? We saw that that now that Rant is having to carry the load. That hasn't worked out too well for him yet. Is Scott Darling a guy that can do that? And if he isn't, now you still are looking at Cam Ward right in the face again. And, that to me, when Cam Ward is your starting goaltender or the most reliable of the two, that to me sends a message that I'm not as confident in the Carolina Hurricanes despite all their offseason hype.
Yeah, I think Darling can carry the workload. And you look at, like I said, Carolina's been kind of using a 1A, 1B system for quite some time now since Ward is a bit on the decline. But I think Darling having kind of been used to that system a little bit in the last couple of years. When you look at when he was in Chicago, he had to fill in for extensive times when Corey Crawford was either injured or just completely struggling. So I think he can hold the workload enough to, if he gives you 55 starts, I think at least 30 of those are going to be at least of a decent quality or a high level. So I think he is the de facto starter, and I think he can hold that workload a little better than some of those other guys we've seen, like you said, like a Antti Ranta, for example.
Okay, moving along so we can keep this within an hour. I think we could do a 3-hour show. Colorado Avalanche has to be the surprise of the new season. They'll be in Dallas tonight to take on the Stars. The Stars are a healthy favorite, minus $2, 203 in some spots. Total is 6, shaded to the over, minus $1.16. Puck drops at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Pacific. And, Dallas is 1-3, and I said before the season, Ken Hitchcock looks like he hasn't blown a gasket yet, but, when he says things like we need more net front presence, there's a learning curve here that you guys have to realize that we're going to give them some time to mold together. But I don't think management has put this team together thinking that there's going to be much of a learning curve. In fact, I think they put this team together thinking they're going to be in the conversation for the Stanley Cup. And I do know this, one of the things in St. Louis for Hitch was, once things weren't going his way, and you can ask Tarasenko about this, his words are heavy sometimes, and you really need a buffer in the locker room to be able to kind of take what he says, filter it, and then get it to the guys, because we know that he's kind of worn on players in the past. And I wonder, I'm sure that locker room is fine right now, but I kind of wonder as things go on, if they don't improve and start seeing some dramatic results in the win column. I wonder if his word's going to get a little heavy there. And at the same time, he did say, Hitchcock did say in their losses that the opposing goaltender was, the best player on the ice. So basically what that's saying is I'm happy where we are offensively. We put a lot of pucks on net. We just got beat by a better goaltender, which, seems to be the trend there, whether or not that Hitchcock is there or Lindy Ruff is there. They're a huge favorite tonight, and I think that there's still a lot of confidence in this team. But I'm looking at the under in this, even though the trend says the over, I think 6 is way too much, and I think Colorado's going to come back down to earth a little bit, and I don't know if I have that much confidence right now in Dallas. You guys have any thoughts on this game tonight?
Well, you can't really read too much into Colorado's win last night against Anaheim. Anaheim was just flat out awful in that game, and the fact that it was even 1-1 was bizarre to me. Colorado they could have scored about 5 or 6 goals. They outshot them, they outworked them the entire night. So, but with that being said, could they carry that momentum on? Like I said, they're truly a surprise start, to this year. It's a team that I think most of us thought were going to be not nearly as bad as last year, but still pretty bad nonetheless. So if they can find a way to maybe score early, take that crowd out of the equation in Dallas, and get some momentum, this could be a tough game for the Stars. But it's a pass for me.
Columbus Blue Jackets 3-1 to start the season. Probably not a surprise to most. We'll take on the Minnesota Wild, who are 1-1-1. Game time at 5 o'clock tonight. I don't know if you see a line on this, Alex. The last time I checked, there's still no line, but certainly plenty of injuries for the Minnesota Wild. And I know that you have a strong opinion on this game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mash unit right now for Minnesota. And, it was one thing with Parise and Granlund out, but you look at, they picked up the 5-2 win against Chicago. Minnesota was my best bet on the last episode we had, but they paid for it. I mean, Niederreiter's hurt. Marcus Foligno got hit with a vicious right hand in a fight with Hayden, and now he's out with a broken bone in his face, and Charlie Coyle with a broken leg. So that's a lot of key guys in different roles that are going to be out for this game right now. You look at Columbus; they picked up the win last night against the New York Rangers. Their offense is starting to slowly gel together. And Danny, you mentioned a lot about a lot of new players coming into a system, taking some time to really gel together. And that's the thing. Once we start seeing a lot of these offensive pieces gel together for the Blue Jackets, we're going to see, I think we're going to see some really talented offensive displays from Columbus. And we could see it tonight because this Wild team, it's their home opener. They're doing a lot of big things. There's going to be a big crowd expected, but the energy from the crowd is not going to be enough, I think, to replace some of the key guys that are missing for the Wild. So I'm waiting for this line to come out, and I'm going to be looking at Columbus. If they're not around the pick and price, that I might even look at possibly playing them on the puck line. This should be a game they should win handily.
Yeah, I'm just checking real quick to see if we have an update on the lines. Does not look like there's a line out on this. So, of course, with the injuries, that's not something that's a surprise. Moving on to the Blackhawks tonight, also a game that Alex is on. Nashville 2-2 at the Chicago Blackhawks. 3-1-1. Chicago's a minus $1.33. Totals 5.5. Shaded to the over minus $1.06. Puck drops at 8:30 Eastern time. And this is, if I'm the Blackhawks, and especially with the way they've been playing early on, I mean, this is a huge revenge spot for them. Look, Nashville's 10th in the league in scoring. They're averaging over 3.3 goals a game, or at 3.3 goals a game. So I think they're also a little bit better than their record indicates right now. They have given up a lot of goals. They've been increasingly effective on the power play. This is a game I really can't get a feel for, although you would say that Chicago certainly would have this one circled on their calendar. If anything, Alex, I'm kind of looking at the under in their first period, which is 1.5. I think they're early on. This is going to be kind of a game where they come out and kind of play smash mouth for 20 minutes before they get things underway. What's your take on tonight's game, Alex?
I mean, you look at how, like you said, this is a huge revenge spot. Obviously, the mess that it was the Hawks in the first round of the playoffs, as Nashville completely destroyed them in that 4-game sweep. That's still fresh in a lot of people's minds, fresh in a lot of the players' minds in that locker room. And on top of the fact you had the Hawks look completely terrible in the last game against Minnesota, that 5-2 loss at home. You got to win games in your division. Quenneville wasn't happy with how the team played. He wasn't happy with a lot of the calls that went. Obviously, that Hawks Wild game was a big swing with the goal disallowed on top of an offsides call that led to a penalty. Wild scored on a power play to make it 3-1, and that game was pretty much done from there. So the revenge spot plus the Hawks team that always plays well when Coach Q, when he blows his top and yells at these guys usually respond right away. Nashville playing very solid hockey. I think we're going to see the over in this. That's what I'm looking at in this game. I think we're going to see a lot of goals back and forth. We're going to see a lot of physical energy. We're going to see a lot of hits. And I think we're going to see a lot of hits after the whistle, which might lead to a lot of penalties, a lot of power play opportunities. So I'm looking at the over. I know it's 5.5 at Pick'em right now in a lot of spots. I think we're going to see a lot of first period under might be a solid play. I can see where it could be tight early, but I think we're going to see a bit of a runaway late in this game, and I can see this game being a 4-3 or a 5-3 final.
Yeah, Alex, sorry, didn't.
That's okay. Go right ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to say I fully agree with you, Alex, on that. And I think that, obviously we know that Chicago has been known to put up goals, but if you guys agree with me on this or not, I think Nashville's kind of changed their mindset coming into the season. I know Ian's cashed a couple over tickets with them as well this season, and it seems like they're almost changing their way of playing. Before they were winning those 3-1 games, they were a tight-knit team that was kind of staying back, but it's almost now they're into those exciting games. They love winning games 5-4. And it's true. Like, it's one of those games against the Blackhawks right now. I think it is going to be an amped up game. It's going to be one of those games where they could just be a goal fest. Both teams are pumped. It's a revenge factor. I fully agree with you, Alex. I think Nashville kind of has a different forte this year, and they just want to put up some goals.
A game that I will be attending tonight as soon as we finish up the 74-game card in the National Hockey League tonight. I'll be going down to Arizona for the Boston Bruins Arizona Coyotes contest, and the Bruins are coming in 1-2. Andrew, they're $1.17 favorite. 5.5 is your total under, shaded to the under minus $1.13 at Arizona. 0-3-1 on the season. Puck drops at 9 o'clock Eastern time, and the Bruins need a win desperately, especially in this position against a team that just every year we go into the season with expectations, and every year that we're disappointed by Arizona. The Bruins have owned Arizona in this between the two teams. So there's no reason for me to be on the Arizona side tonight, although the bookmakers, I think, have given a little bit of credit to the Coyotes, probably thinking that they have to win a game someday. But I think Boston, talent-wise, even without Bergeron, is much better than the Arizona Coyotes. Moving on to the next game, the Ottawa Senators, undefeated so far, will take on the Edmonton Oilers, who are 1-2. Puck drops at 10 o'clock Eastern time. There is no line on this game. Road team in this series is 10-3 in their last 13 meetings, so that bodes well for the Ottawa Senators. And Andrew, I understand that you have an opinion on this game.
Yeah, so last night we saw the Ottawa Senators put up 6 goals, and I really don't think that'll happen tonight. I think that Edmonton really carries the load. I think it means a lot for really skilled teams, really teams that have high expectations for themselves. When their coach is ripping on them in practice, when Todd McClellan is really telling his players in practice, it's time to step it up. Not even just the fourth and third liners, Connor McDavid, Draisaitl, Maroon, all those guys. They need to actually start putting in some work. And this is why pretty much I'm on the puck line for the Oilers tonight. I think that, Ottawa's going to be riding some kind of high right now, guys, after that big win. They dominated last night, 6-0 versus the Flames. And it's going to all come crashing down tonight, I think. Edmonton Oilers are the play. And, it seems like a really cliche pick. I mean, everyone's all over the Oilers this year. But I think that they've kind of had a low start, and this is the game they pick it up. In my opinion, they're way better than they've showed so far. It's not just the Connor McDavid show. They're a deep team. They've got good goaltending, and it's going to really reflect today. I mean, Ottawa, I've always said, they're a team that can sit back. I understand that, but they're also a team that can put up some goals and have the tempo. But tempo-wise, guys, this is a complete mismatch. We're going to see Edmonton just pushing the pace extraordinarily against this Ottawa team, and they're not going to be able to keep up whatsoever. I think McDavid will be skating circles around Dion Phaneuf and the Ottawa Senators tonight. I'm rolling with Oilers puck line.
Another game that we don't have a line out on yet. Calgary 3-2 will face Vancouver 1-1 on the early season. Puck drops tonight at 7 o'clock Pacific, or 7 o'clock Pacific time, 10 o'clock Eastern time. I'm so glad I don't live back east, so I don't have to stay up to 1 o'clock to see these games anymore. But you guys enjoy that, and I'll pay the price at 6 a.m. to come on with you. A few injuries for Vancouver. Alex Edler left Thursday's game in a collision against the Boards. There's not any word whatsoever on whether or not he can go, and of course he's part of their top pairing. Listening to Travis Green talk the other day in the press conference, he didn't address it, and of course they did have a day off on Friday, so we didn't see whether or not he attended morning skate or not, but we will see that today. And of course Jaromir Jagr got his first playing time with the Calgary Flames. They put him on the line with Versteeg and Bennett. I'm not sure yet how he's going to affect the Flames, if he is in any way. He does look a little noticeably slower, but I remember watching him in person last season thinking, my good, this guy still can compete at this level. The home team in this series is 24-9, so that bodes well for the Vancouver Canucks. And just I don't think either of you have a strong opinion on that, so we'll try to get through to the next two games as we'll try to keep this under an hour. The New York Islanders at 1-2-1 face the San Jose Sharks at 1-2. The Sharks minus $1.40, total at 5.5, shaded to the over, minus $1.06. Look, San Jose's given up a lot of goals. I think a lot of people last season kind of saw the demise in this team. They tightened things up a little bit against the Buffalo Sabres. So I'm still really not sure what we're getting out of San Jose. I don't think they're going to win too many 5-4 games anymore. It's much more of a defensive team. Jordan Eberle for the New York Islanders is being evaluated. He was evaluated yesterday, and we'll see what the result of that evaluation after he got hit the other night or the other day in Thursday's practice. So he might be out for the Islanders as well. I might take a chance on San Jose in the first period minus $1.28. I think it takes a while for teams to go from the East Coast to the West Coast to kind of get acclimated with their surroundings. So I look for San Jose to jump on them early, especially in the plays or against a team that the New York Islanders just have not had success with. Do either of you have any opinion on the Islanders in San Jose, or a lean?
I would lean a little bit toward the Sharks in that game. It's a bit of a high price, so I might look, like you said, something along the lines of the first period. But the Islanders, they have yet to score on the power play in their first 4 games, so that's something to take note of as well. Like I said, and teams obviously getting acclimated going cross country as well. So I think this would be a good time for the Sharks to bounce back and get a win here.
I would just say lean the under in this game, in my opinion. I think challenge both these teams to put up some goals for us. That's all I would really say about this. 2 teams that I don't really think are going to put on a show tonight, and I think it's going to be a pretty dry game. Use kind of some terminology you were saying, Dana, just about, they'll be smashing around for the first period, just kind of figuring themselves out, which is why I don't think it'll be anything too exciting tonight. Maybe kind of a 2-1 kind of game tonight.
And finally, the Buffalo Sabres still winless. I know that makes some people that I know very unhappy. But the Sabres and Jack Eichel, who still says that we should find some guys that care about winning, whatever that means, as they try to find their first win tonight against the Los Angeles Kings. The Kings minus $1.69. Total is 5, shaded to the over minus $1.45. Game time at 10:30 Eastern time. And if you look at Jonathan Quick against the Buffalo Sabres, as he would be very happy to face them every single night, as he's undefeated in 6 starts against the Sabres, including 3 shutouts. He has a goals against average of 1.22, which is the lowest against any team in the National Hockey League. And his last outing was a 26 save effort and a 2-0 win at Staples Center last spring. And in fact, in his last 71 shots faced against the Buffalo Sabres, he's only allowed 1 goal. So Jonathan Quick is ecstatic that the Buffalo Sabres are coming to town. I don't know. I wouldn't get involved when it's a nice minus $1.16. But guys, you're getting a plus price on the under. In the last 8 meetings, 6 of those have gone under the total with a push. So do any of you think it's worth taking a shot with the under at a plus price, which is at a plus $1.31, the best price that I see now?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And like I say, this is one of those games where you really have to shop around, because there's a couple of books that do have, a 5.5, with heavy juice on the under. So if you can find that 5 at a plus price, I think that's definitely a way to look at it. But like I said, when you have a goalie like Jonathan Quick, who loves, clearly, finds a way to shut down a team like Buffalo, that's something you definitely want to look for. And this would be a good game for LA to really, they're a team that likes to play physical, tighten things down. And Buffalo, they play like to use your term, Andrew, a really dry game. And that loss against San Jose, I think we might see more of the same. Something's got to change for this Buffalo team right now. I don't know where that's going to come from exactly. So I could see where goals would be kind of tight in this game, maybe looking at the under.
Yeah, and Alex, to your point, look, I do daily write-ups on SBR every day, and one of the big things that I make a point of is, yeah, I mean, you want this plus price, and obviously that looks attractive, and most people will say, well, if you think it's going to go under 5, let's take a chance and not grab the 5.5. But I can't tell you, even so far this season, how that's worked out for me. Just grabbing the extra half point, giving up a little juice, and we've seen in some spots it's minus $1.30 to the under 5.5, so minus $1.40 at Heritage. So obviously, when it grabbed a minus $1.30 at Bookmaker, most of it across the board is minus $1.30. So I don't have a problem laying that. while getting that extra half a goal, which is extremely valuable when you're betting the National Hockey League. So, guys, let's get to our best bets. Ian was good enough to send our best bet record, which is now standing at 9-3, which I think off the top of my head is good for 75%. Let's start it off with you, Alex. Who is your best play today?
My best play, and this is a personal play I fired on last night on the overnight line, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think this is, like I said, they want to step up in class and be part of the top of the Eastern Conference. This is a big game on the road against a rival that has dominated you, won 14 straight meetings. You got to win this game if you're the Maple Leafs tonight. And getting a good pick and price, I got it -105. You can shop around for that. But I think the Maple Leafs take care of business tonight on the road.
Yeah, and even if you go to Bet Online and again shop for these numbers, I'm seeing a plus price at Bet Online at plus $1.04. So that line, if you're looking to play the Toronto Maple Leafs, you might want to wait a little bit and see if there's some money coming in on the opposite way to get a much better number. Andrew, who's your best play tonight?
Yeah, guys, I'm just going to give out a rare first period best bet tonight. I'm going to roll with what I was talking about with the Habs and the Leafs over 1.5 goals. I think it's a solid play. I think it could hit within the first 10 minutes. I think these two teams are going to come out with a bang. This isn't going to be any sitting back, guys. It's going to be an electric game. And like I said, the Habs are averaging 1 goal a game. We're going to see a couple more of them than that tonight. And hope you guys all enjoy the games tonight. I think it should be a good one. Keeping it simple with just over in the first period for them.
And Ian Cameron, although he is not here, was good enough to send in his best bet. And tonight, Ian is going with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I think with you and Alex, or him and Alex are crossing their fingers that the Maple Leafs come through tonight. And I'm going to do something I normally don't do just because I like the way that this team is playing. I'm going to give up a little juice, and maybe my window of opportunity is a little bit bigger than some others. I mean, I know people that won't play games that are over $1.30. I'm kind of at that $1.50 window because I can increase my bet the next play just a tad to be able to recuperate that. The Tampa Bay Lightning, to me, even though they're at $1.48, and make sure you shop for this line because there are lines out there that are above that $1.50 threshold. But I really think that this team has waited a good year and a half to really flex its muscles and show the rest of the league what they really are. And they didn't miss the playoffs by all that much. In fact, I think they only missed the playoffs by a point last season. So I think they sat around all summer, kind of stewed about that. But to me, I don't have a problem laying the extra juice, and I wasn't all that impressed by what I saw from St. Louis the other night against Florida, and now you're going to step up in competition against Tampa Bay. I think I think Tampa Bay is on their way to a terrific season, and this is just another rung in the ladder. So I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight minus $1.48. Hopefully, we will get some buyback on the St. Louis Blues as we go forward in the day, so we can get a little bit better number than that. But it's a small play for me, but it is my best bet tonight. So we'll just go through these once more, and then we'll end the show. Alex is on Toronto. Ian is also on Toronto. Andrew, first period over 1.5 goals in the Montreal-Toronto game. And I'm really going out on a limb and betting Tampa Bay to win tonight against the St. Louis Blues. Okay, well, that's our first post Ian, not post Ian, but Ian is not here show. And guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think we kept it under 2 hours, and we'll be back again on Tuesday where the Ice Guys recap how they did, and hopefully guys will have a profitable weekend. For Alex B. Smith and Andrew McGinnis on Dana Lane, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again on Tuesday. Have a great weekend.